this kind of leads us is a good segue into like mismanagement of the forests themselves, because you and I have been finding articles, and I made sure like when I'm highlighting these that I'm highlighting the dates, because I think it's important. The point of tonight's episode is to look back on, as much as people like Gavin Newsom are trying to be revisionist history and say like, no, we've been, we've all been on top of this. Like we've been spending money and investing money. But there's articles going back years to show like this has been a problem and we should be all worried about it. So this article is from October 18th, 2020. It's from NBC News. It's titled "Decades of Mismanagement Led to Choked Forests. Now it's time to clear them out, fire experts say." Now this was 5 years ago, or 4 or 5 years ago. For decades, federal, state, and local agencies have prioritized fire suppression over prevention, pouring billions of dollars into hiring and training firefighters, buying and maintaining firefighting equipment, and educating the public on firefighting. In California, forest management also falls under the purview of the state's Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, known as CAL FIRE. Since 2011, CAL FIRE has spent more than $600 million on fire prevention efforts and removed or felled nearly 2 million dead trees. In 2018, California set the goal of treating, which can include slashing, burning, and sawing or thinning trees, 500,000 acres of wildland per year, yet CAL FIRE remains far from meeting that target. It's an ongoing process, said CAL FIRE spokeswoman Christine McMorrow. There's always going to be more work. I thought I highlighted more of this. Here we go. Long before the country's founding, Spanish explorers documented wildland fires in California. In 1542, conquistador Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo sailed along the coast and noticed smoke billowing up from what is now known as the Los Angeles Basin. He called it La Bahía de los Fumos, or the Bay of Smoke. Studies by archaeologists and historians support a theory that Cabrillo might have been witnessing an early form of land management, including the burning of shrubs and chaparral to clear dry brush and promote better conditions for hunting big game. Prescribed and controlled burns were integral to the American landscape for generations. In 1910, focus started to shift away from forest management and steered toward fire suppression after the Big Burn ravaged 3 million acres across Washington, Idaho, and Montana. So basically, the article goes on to say that over time, they have gotten away from this. And even though this has been going on since the Spanish conquistadors came over, we have moved away from this in favor of environmental conservation and protectionism, which is something Trump has been calling out Newsom for with the whole Delta smelt, which I didn't know that a Delta smelt is like they can't swim. It's hard for me to fathom that a fish that can't swim is something that we're that concerned about. I mean, I feel like for all these people who believe in evolution and all that, wouldn't a fish that can't swim, wouldn't that be part of evolution or Darwinism? Call me crazy, but I don't think if you're a fish that can't swim, then you have bigger problems than.
If you're an environmentalist, Governor, would you be using a water bottle in that podcast interview the second one we showed? Because that stood out to me right away. It's like, that's not very environmentalist.
You'd be using a reusable water bottle.
If he was in LA, they are saying don't drink the water, but you can boil the water and drink it out of a glass. There's options.
Mm-hmm. So it's the next article. Continuing with that vein of, God, I'm like you right now. I have so many tabs open.
Yeah, but you're the leader of this, so.
Yeah.
Like, I get to have my chaos so nobody sees it.
That's the problem. I try and even put them in order of but sometimes that doesn't even work. Okay, so going along with environmentalism over fire prevention, this is a recent article, how California eco-bureaucrats halted a Pacific Palisades fire safety project to save an endangered shrub. And this was from the New York Post. In 2019, the LA Department of Water and Power began replacing nearly 100-year-old power line poles cutting through Topanga State Park. When the project was halted within days by conservationists outraged that federally endangered Broughton's milk vetch plants had been trampled during the process. The goal of the project was to improve fire safety for the Pacific Palisades area by replacing the wooden poles with steel widening fire access lanes in the area, and installing wind and fire resistant power lines, all after the area was identified as having an elevated fire risk, according to LA Times. Quote, this project will help ensure power reliability and safety while helping reduce wildfire threats, the LADWP said at the time. These wooden poles were installed between 1933 and 1955 and are now past their useful service life. But after an amateur botanist hiking through the park during the work saw the harm to some of the park's Broughton's milk vetch, a flowering shrub with only a few thousand specimens remaining in the wild, and complained, the project was completely halted. Instead of fire hardening the park, the city, which the state said had undertaken the work without proper permitting, ended up paying $2 million in fines and was ordered by the California Coastal Commission to reverse the whole project and replant the rare herb. That work saved about 200 Brownton's milk vetch plants, almost all of which have now likely been torched in the wildfires that consumed Topanga Canyon, along with 24,000 acres. Yeah, so all that work to save the plant and might have been engulfed in flames. The good news for the milk vetch, however, is that they usually need wildfire to sprout, meaning dormant seeds now have a massive new habitat for a new crop of the rare shrub, which means there'll be more of them, so you can't go back and fire proof that area because conservationists will worry more about the milk vetch than the homes that are up in the Palisades. So,
oh my God.
That's, this is when environmentalism and conservation goes from, we want to take care of the environment and protect it to you're not living in reality. Like something has to give. And I want the environment to be protected. I want our natural beauty here in California to be protected and preserved. I also don't want thousands of people to lose their home because of a milk vetch, whatever that is.
Well, I don't want anyone to lose their home because of any plant.
Well, excuse me.
Like, I'm not going to look at somebody and be like, this is a lovely home you have here that you've designed to build. But unfortunately, this little plant here, it's dormant right now, but I want to save this plant.
And it's funny that there's an amateur botanist who ran off to the California Coastal Commission and made a complaint about it. Like,
we need to
that's
get
a busybody environmentalist.
Yeah, we need to sue that person.
I hope that person kind of looks like goes, whoops. But,
they're like,
I actually don't think he does, because I think a lot of these environmentalists who are this obsessed with these things, they don't see that. They see it as like, well, we're not supposed to be here. This isn't our habitat and stuff like that. They would rather see homes burned down and all of this and protect the plant or a fish or something like that than human lives. And this becomes a question of, again, putting it back on like these local officials who subscribe to these policies and subscribe to these ideals. You're going to have to pick a lane now. Like, are you going to pick, we have to govern responsibly and in reality, or are we going to continue to kowtow to environmentalists? Like, the environmental thing probably sounded good in their mind 20, 30 years ago when they started, but it's gotten to be such it's like a Frankenstein monster they've created and they don't know what to do with it now. It's kind of like the whole thing with affordable housing. Can we build housing? But no, every time you try and build something, CEQA gets involved, and then CEQA's a mess and it won't let you build. So or like Gavin Newsom saying, we're going to be cutting red tape and bureaucratic red tape so people can rebuild their homes faster. Okay, so you're admitting there is bureaucratic red tape and there's too much of it for people to build housing in California. Maybe that's an issue that like we should all be kind of concerned about, that there is so much red tape. Why do we need it if you can cut it to rebuild housing faster? And that's kind of the road that like California Democrats are going to have to figure out going forward. And maybe California Republicans can kind of capitalize on, is like, hey, we're not going to put all of your homes at risk for a milk vetch. We're going to be responsible and like make sure we fireproof your county. I mean, it's crazy that they were trying to protect homes and fireproof them, and they were like, no, you trampled on these milk vetch. You can't put these things in. It's like, that's an insane policy to me. So what do you think?
Well, even regarding building housing, in this Palisades fire, we saw that there was a lot of, they were trying to leave and they had to just abandon their cars because it was like you know, they were literally getting out of their cars and running down the streets, down the freeways, running away from the fire because so much traffic. So is the whole YIMBY thing even safe? I mean, we're building so much housing and then people can't get away when there is a fire.
Right.
YIMBY being the yes in my backyard building.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all for building up and building more high density housing, but cities like LA aren't, I mean, a lot of cities, to be honest, are not really built. I mean, they've been built for a long time ago, and they were not built for thousands of people to try and exit all at once.
Right.
Especially LA. If you've ever driven through that part of LA, like Sunset Boulevard or anything like that. Hey, thanks for checking out the California Underground podcast. If you enjoyed that clip, make sure you subscribe, like, share, review, comment, all that stuff that helps with the algorithm, helps people find us more. And if you want to learn more, you can always listen to our full podcast at Apple, Spotify, Google, all those different places that you basically find podcasts. Or if you just want to keep watching clips, you can check out clips here, or you can subscribe to our channel right here, somewhere in here.